Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius, back at it. Shout out to the super producer extraordinaire, Mike Ward. Coming today to touch base on a couple things, talk a little bit about the Lions, final roster, talk some AJ Hinch, and then I want to talk about the media coverage. I need you guys to help me out. I need you guys to hit me up on at Cornbread Pod on Twitter. Explain to me what happened to the media in general and sports media in particular. So appreciate you joining me. If you're listening live on our Facebook Live, thank you. Appreciate it. Give me a like, give me a review of some kind. It always helps. If you're listening later on the YouTube channel or something like that, any feedback is welcome. If you agree with everything I say, great. If you don't, at Cornbread Pod, you can let me know. I'm open to all feedback, good, bad, or ugly. I think it's valuable because at the end of the day, it's just about trying to produce good content, make a podcast that people want to listen to and find remotely interesting. I say every time, and I will probably say on every podcast at some point, I'm not a broadcaster, I'm not a journalist. That's not what I'm trying to do. If you want that, you can turn on your radio and get that. If that's your thing and you like what they do, great. We'll talk about that more in a minute. That's not what I'm here for. So if you want that forwards have to sell the team and SOL nonsense, you can turn this podcast off now because I'm not for you. I'm a fan. I don't apologize. I don't feel bad. I don't care what certain people think of that. Like I like these teams, right? And whether I'm talking about baseball or hockey, basketball, absolutely with the Lions, it will be almost always optimistic. It will be from a sunny skies, blue skies and sunshine perspective, but it won't be nonsense, right? Because nonsense can be that. I could get on here and I got on with my friend a couple months ago when the schedules came out and said the Lions could win 9 football games. There was probably a bit of cornbread that day. I think Art and I both ate our share of cornbread that morning, and we don't apologize for it. Is there a world where the Lions can win 9 games? I'm sure there is. Probably not the case, but that's okay. You can get that nonsense. You can get that. It's not nonsense. Everybody's different, right? You can get that on the radio. So I'm not for. I appreciate everybody who's listened to the recent podcast and hit the likes. I can't tell you how good that is. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you keep coming back and listening, and we can grow this thing because I think there's a group of people more like me. Well, not that I'm the benchmark, but people who love the team and who like to root for the team and like to think positively and don't always just have to come on and try and get someone fired. But like I said, there are a group of people who are dedicated to doing that, to bringing you that perspective, and you can listen to them all day on the radio. Knock yourself out. That's not what I'm here for. So today, like I said, we're gonna hit the final rosters, some things that may or may not be interesting. A couple topics. I gotta talk about the Tigers a little bit because AJ Hinch said something a couple days ago, and it probably got more play than it should have. But then I started hearing all these spin-off narratives, and I said, "No, I gotta talk about that." That's and sometimes I need to get this disclaimer out too, right? I will sound like I don't like sports talk radio. That is not true. I listen almost every day. I call in sometimes. The concept I like. The function that is delivering sports news real time for a fan like me is invaluable. Not just because of the podcast, but I just like to hear it. Some of the takes are weak and lazy. Some of the people that work in that industry are weak and lazy in the way they do their jobs. I don't know them as people. They do their jobs in a weak and lazy fashion. And I am not the police of that. So when I go later and I dive deep into this whole what's up with sports media, it is not from a place of I think I am right about something and they are wrong. It is I have a perspective about the way that job used to be done. And so there's a bit of old man standing on his porch in black socks yelling, "Get off my grass." There's a degree of that because I can quickly morph into that guy. But it's really much more a deal of I don't understand. And the answer may be simple. There's a group of fans, not called me, that like that eat that up. I call them dumbass Dans. And for new listeners, that's from a podcast a year or so ago after a Lions game. And a guy named Dan posted something really dumb about the Lions. And my producer and I just labeled people with those weak takes, those stupid takes, those look at me posts. I need to get reactions. I need everybody to pay attention to me and affirm me. That person is a dumbass Dan. Just in general, could be a man or a woman. It has nothing to do with anything except the propensity to post dumb stuff. So if I reference dumbass Dan, that's what it is. But to be clear, fundamentally, sports talk radio is awesome. The concept. Most people who do that for a living are really good at their jobs. Doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't even mean it's positive. I understand what their jobs are, though. And that's a big part of, I had to put that disclaimer out right now because I'm going to go hard on them later. Their jobs are to evoke emotion in a certain kind of fan, the kind of guy who thinks he knows it all. I always say the guy who coached his son's Pop Warner team, so he thinks he's qualified to be the linebackers coach of the Lions, or he's at a certain age and has seen enough sports that he thinks he's uber qualified. I've been watching this team since 1980. Okay, congratulations. Me too. So what? that doesn't make you a scout. That doesn't mean you can look at a player and know anything about him because you don't see practice every day. We all read the same stuff on the internet. We all watch the same highlights. We all get the same information. Some of the hosts on the show have access to practice. Some of them know the insiders. Beat writers for the papers, different deal. Those guys are there every day. They know a lot more than I know. They know a lot more than the sports talk radio hosts know. But those guys will try and dupe you into thinking that they are experts. And then you got the okie doke fools that call into those shows and say, oh, you are so right. You know everything, blah, blah. I hate them. I don't dislike the host because he's doing his job well. The hosts are doing what they're supposed to do, which is generate interest, generate callers, generate ratings. That's literally what their jobs are. I really dislike dumbass Dan because that's the guy that calls in and tells you that he knows who they should have cut and shouldn't cut. And I'd quickly jump down that rabbit hole right off the top. Look, I'm going to get into the roster stuff. At some point, I'm going to get on the sports media, local and national. Local is predictable. Like I've been listening to these guys long enough to predict. I know what they do. I know what they're trying to do. I get all that. National can sometimes be frustrating, but I have a legitimate dislike for the worldwide leader in that industry and what they've done to sports media. So start off with the Lions. So the final rosters are coming into place, and there are some things on there that not necessarily surprising, but maybe worthwhile to talk about. I think that Jelani Tavai is the top one to me, and I'm talking roster cuts getting down to 53. I'm not surprised. It doesn't concern me. And there are people who want to take that and make a narrative, right? They want to have a conversation. We can have a conversation around that if you want. The conversation is simple. He was drafted by a different regime to play in a different scheme. And whatever you think of the scheme, and if you're new to the podcast, you can go back. We've archived all of our pods on either Facebook or SoundCloud for the last 2 years. There is not a single podcast where I don't talk about Matt Patricia's defensive scheme. And you're going to hear words like horrendous, despicable, disgusting, worst scheme ever. A degree of hyperbole, maybe, maybe. But my honest feeling is that's a horrifying scheme. I believe that as we sit now, despite weight loss and all the good things I heard about Tavai, he doesn't fit the current scheme. Now, I'm not going to act like I'm an expert on the current scheme because they haven't played enough games for me to really assess what it is. It appears, based on the preseason, to be a more aggressive scheme that requires linebackers to be fast. Sideline to sideline speed seems to be a thing. I think the old Matt Patricia, worst scheme in the history of football scheme, I can't help myself, required, wanted, needed, was looking for bigger inside linebackers that could fill space, that could plug holes, that could do different things. They drafted him for that. I'm not sure he was great at that. Don't misunderstand. But that's the reason they drafted it. They drafted him a year and a half ago, a year and a few months ago. Or maybe it was 2 years. This is his third. So when they drafted him, they saw him projecting to be a fit in the Matt Patricia scheme, a scheme that, in case I haven't mentioned it, sucked. Not sure he did a great job fitting into that scheme, but Aaron Glenn, the current defensive coordinator, who I will going forward, not because I know him well or have his permission, but I will going forward just call him AG because I just think it's cool. AG's scheme does not look anything like Matt Patricia's scheme. I see, and I don't know it, right? I haven't seen it in real games. I don't think that there is a place for bigger, see air quotes, slow linebacker in this scheme. Now, it doesn't mean that they have filled their roster with the type of, there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do for this team. There's a lot of work to do for the defense. That's all good. He's not a fit, but that's not to say Jelani Tavai's a bum and doesn't belong in the league. He will likely land somewhere. Don't be shocked if he lands in New England, by the way, because for someone's scheme, I believe there's a place for the type of inside linebacker Jelani Tavai is. At minimum, special teams. Not suggesting he's going to be a star or a great player, but at the same time, he could have moments or a great game if he's in the right fit. See Kyle Van Noy, for example. Didn't fit here, didn't belong here, went to a scheme that suited his skill set, was a productive player. Not a star, but a productive player. The other people they let go, nothing bothers me or surprises me. There are people who want to have a conversation around Rashad Perriman, right? I don't know if you pay attention to what they're doing, you can see how that train was coming because they're building, right? There are clearly development roster moves here. And I'll use the word development a lot. There are clearly moves that are development moves. When you signed Rashad Perriman, you had never heard of Tom Kennedy. You didn't know you were going to draft Amon-Ra St. Brown. You didn't know where the organic development of Quintez Cephas would be. You really weren't sure what you had in Khalif Raymond. So when you, when you signed Rashad Perriman, which I'm going to say March-ish, you probably had every intention or every thought he would step in and potentially be your number two. That's the way it was talked about. But then when guys get on the field, whether it's because you're hurt and you miss practice time, or you go into a game and you drop 2 passes, or Amon-Ra St. Brown looks to be much better than we thought he was. And oh, by the way, Quintez Cephas has made some strides. At the end of the day, you're keeping a certain number of guys. That room only has a certain number of chairs, so to speak. And so when you look and you are working from a development mentality, which I'm going to keep talking about, Amon-Ra St. Brown's a no-brainer. You see either development or potential development in Quintez Cephas, and then you find this kid, Tom Kennedy, that fits something that you like, something you think you're going to want to do. You see something. Then letting go of a guy who you signed to a reasonable contract, it's not killing your cap. It's not doing anything horrible. And development, right? You could keep those guys on your roster and develop them. That I don't even think that was a big deal. I think it fits the development mentality. And I've said in the last 4 podcasts I've done, going back to the Stafford trade podcast, there is a strategy that these guys are following. They are consistent. I'm not sitting here saying it is absolutely going to work. That isn't even the point. That isn't even the point. The results aren't the point. The yield, that's not what's important right now. It's the process that's important. And that's an overused term. But if you go back to a series of events, or I did a podcast probably mid or late April about the process, what they're doing, how it's all consistent with something that Sheila Ford Hamp said 2 days after Thanksgiving. My evaluation of the team, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, AG, Anthony Lynn, even Mark Brunell, the quarterback's coach, Deuce Staley, whoever, are the things they're doing consistent with the plan that they've been laying out. And nothing surprises me in these cuts. I mean, there were people who made a big deal. Oh, they don't have a kicker on their roster. That was absurd. I should save that for the lazy media portion of this podcast. But why was that a story? Were we to believe that the Lions were going to show up in San Francisco September 12th without a kicker? Is that what we thought? No, you have to understand the business part of this around waiver claims, guys that might be out there. They have guys with titles that include words like pro personnel, right? They know what other teams are doing. They know players that might be available. So if you get there and you're making these decisions, one, there's a waiver claim process. And you probably think, can we sneak Zane Gonzalez through and get him to the practice squad? Because we think there's something there, but we might need to develop them. We might need a longer look. And oh, by the way, is there a potential that there are guys out there that we could sign? And whether it was the guy who kicked for Anthony Lynn in almost said San Diego, kicked for Anthony Lynn with the Los Angeles Chargers, Michael Badgley, I believe is his name, or the guy they ultimately signed, Austin Siebert out of Cincinnati, you knew there was going to be a kicker available. So all of the stupid Twitter posts and the Adam Schefter nonsense, the Lions have got to 53, and guess what? They don't have a kicker. That's just dumb. That's weak, lazy. Why is that a story? And maybe I'm the one who's falling for it, because why does that even bother me? The question might be, why does that even bother me? I don't know. But there was clearly, like, if you believe that Brad Holmes is not smart, I suggest you haven't been paying attention. And if you don't, and you understand that he is very smart, you should not have these concerns about the trade that they made for Trinity Benson. You should know, but do you think Brad Holmes doesn't know who Trinity Benson is? Or are you one of those guys that loves draft capital so much? Oh my God, they gave up a 5 and a 7 and for this guy, and they could have got him. You don't know that guy would have cleared waivers. You don't know that someone else wouldn't have signed him. But more importantly, do you trust Brad Holmes? Because I do. And I think Brad Holmes likely 2 years ago when this kid came out, scouted him and has a file on him and knows what he is. And oh, by the way, he gave up a 5 and a 7. So what the hell are we talking about? It's a 5 and a 7. Why are we? But we got to talk about something, right? We got to talk about something. I don't sweat that stuff. I mean, I find it amusing. But ultimately, they got a bunch of guys back on the practice squad. The guys they cared about, the guys I think they wanted. Craig Reynolds. They got both the tight ends, Mack and right back. They got the receiver, McKinley, and Sage Surratt. And the defensive tackle that I liked, Bruce Hector. They got those guys back on the practice squad. That's about development. All those guys could be future contributors. And by future, I mean later this season due to injury or development. Who knows? Everything they're doing is consistent with a development strategy and has to be viewed that way. Even if you love sports talk radio, hot take theater, oh, fine. You could be that dude. That's cool. That those dudes are out there. I don't think those dudes are listening right now, so it doesn't matter. But I pride myself on being what I call a regular fan. I'm a guy that loves, and I think there's a lot more people like me. The more I travel and meet Lions fans all over the country or literally the world, I meet people who seem to be fans more like me. But if you listen to sports talk radio on a consistent basis, which I have confessed that I do and enjoy it, quite frankly, you get a whole lot more dumbass Dans, right? It's 80% dumbass Dan because that's what they evoke. They come on and tell you, oh, no, the Lions don't have a kicker. And dumbass Dan picks up the phone and calls in and criticizes Brad Holmes for signing of Randy Bullock or really? or talks about draft capital. Those 2 picks, the Patriots collect picks. That's how you do it. And a 5 and a 7. You know what Trinity Benson is? Probably better than any 5th or 7th round wide receiver drafted this draft or next draft. That's the reality. That's where you get your 4th and 5th receivers is the 5th and 7th round. So at minimum, they expedited it. If the guy is any good and they found a diamond in the rough, great. The worst case is they simply took a pick next year because they got a 6 back. So if you say they gave up a 5, what you really, because they say they swapped the 6 and the 7 and improved their draft spot. You gave up a 5 for Trinity Benson. If this guy contributes anything, tell me what the going rate for a 5th round receiver is. Go look up your favorite 5th round receiver and tell me how many targets he had, how many catches he had. Tell me what that is. And this is the kind of nonsense that's been talked about for the last couple of days, right? And I'm like, okay, that's what we're doing now. Uh, but interestingly, and I'm going on longer than I planned to, Lions second round picks, that is a conversation, right? That is one that people have touched on a little bit. And I just went like top of my head and I cringed. Javid Best and Amir Abdullah, Titus Young, Ryan Broyles, Tease Tabor, Jarrett Davis, carry on. Oh, right? That's a tough read. Javid Best probably could have known. We knew he had concussion issues coming out. Probably could have known. Amir Abdullah might be on somebody's roster still. He may still be in Minnesota. He can do something. He can return kicks. He's just small, right? I mean, there's nothing Amir could do. He is talented. By all accounts, was a good. Amir's just small, right? Could you have predicted Titus Young? That's tough. I don't know that I want to go there, right? I don't know that I want to go there. Could you have predicted Titus? I don't think anybody could have predicted the severity of Titus Young. Were there flags? Yep. Were there things that we heard about? Yep. I don't know that anybody could have predicted, right, the ultimate path that Titus Young's career took. That's a tough one though. Broyles, swing and miss. Tease Tabor, bad swing and miss. Because the thing you have to remember is the statement, right? When you come out and you make a statement, people are going to hang that on you forever. And I could go down a long list, right? But for Bob Quinn to say, I watch more tape on Tease Tabor than any player in my career, that exacerbated the fact that the word on Tease Tabor, the single word, was slow. And by I don't know Tease Tabor. By all accounts, he's a nice guy. I have no idea. He might be in the league somewhere. I don't know. But the word on Tease Tabor coming out was slow. Tease Tabor played cornerback, guys. One thing I feel fairly certain you can't be playing corner is slow. I never played corner, quite frankly, because I was slow. You can't do that. Jarrett Davis, don't know. I thought Jarrett Davis was a good player coming out. I don't think he was a horribly unpopular pick, but Jarrett Davis might have been a first round pick, by the way. Jarrett Davis might have went like 19. Yeah, but like carry on, that's an injury deal. And here's the point of all that was different GMs, different coaches, different schemes. But all those are second round picks. It happens, right? It's weird, but it happens. So I just thought that was an interesting thing. The Lions' history of second round picks kind of sucks. So, all right, I'm changing gears a little bit and talk some baseball. Got my Tiger shirt on today. And all these things kind of tie into weird media nonsense, right? Everything is going back to my current confusion / disgust with the media. And so AJ Hinch made a statement, and I copied it verbatim, so I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up. It simply said, if the Tigers organization does a good job, we're going to reestablish ourselves as a winning franchise and develop a winning culture. If you want to be a part of it, then come. If you don't, then we'll beat you, right? And it blew up. It blew up on Twitter. It blew up everywhere, right? So my initial thought was, okay, who's he talking to? Right. And then I got some context, right? He's talking to free agents. They asked him about free agency because the big thing now, the big hotness locally is it time for the Tigers to start spending money? I'm going to be honest, it's not. It's actually not close. We're at least a year, maybe two. And you don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear that. There are people go, they've been rebuilding for a decade. It hasn't been a decade. It's been a legitimate 5, maybe 6. Right. If you have an agenda, you'll go higher. That's fine. They were honest from the start. And if you're a baseball fan, you understand this. It takes a long time. I'm not making excuses. I don't have to because I think they're doing it perfectly. Now, not that they've done everything right. We can talk about what they got back for the Verlander trade or JD Martinez trades. We can talk about that kind of stuff. And you're not going to hit on everything. We can talk about signings. I think on balance, you get a Akil Baddoo, probably luck, or maybe that's good scouting. You You find players, right? How much do we like Eric Haas? I don't know. The reality is that sport, that structure, you have to accept who you are. And once they accept it, we're going to drop 2 levels because there's big market, mid market, small market. They acted and operated under Mr. Illich's leadership like a big market team, whether it's Prince Fielder or Ordonez back in the day, Pudge back in the day, Juan Gonzalez back in the day, Jordan Zimmerman, you name the guy, even David Price, right? They did things that big market teams do, trying to get a World Series. And they did it for the better part of a decade, if not longer. I contend it worked. There were a lot of playoff games. There was some exciting baseball. There was 2 World Series appearances. Ultimately, they didn't get the ultimate prize. And if you're that dude, okay, you can say it didn't work because they don't have a trophy. You can say that. That's fine. That just makes you that dude. I'm cool with that. But what they did was they decided we're not going to act like a mid-market team, which I guess you could make a case that Detroit, Michigan is a mid-market team. Maybe. They didn't do that. They dropped 2 levels. They decided we're going to adopt the small market model. When I noticed that, when I recognized that, I knew we were looking at 7 years. I knew we were looking at a long time. And so we sucked it up. We just sucked it up for like really bad seasons, right? And then we started saying, where are the fruits of this? Where are the fruits of this? And for me, where I am now, and I said about all 4 teams on multiple podcasts, we are at the precipice, gratuitous excuse to use the word precipice, of all 4 teams doing really good things. I told somebody a couple of weeks ago, 3 years from now, it's going to be really, really fun being a fan of Detroit sports because I think all 4 teams are going to be really good. There's different paces. Troy Weaver is doing amazing things, and the Pistons are going to be really good, really fast. Steve Yzerman is going to build the wings. We know that. We know that. We see the small things he's doing now. You can sit on a foundation of, oh, yeah, he built the 2-time Stanley Cup champs. That's not cornbread or Kool-Aid. That's reality. Look at the numbers. Look at the stats. Look at who built it, right? If you have, like me, a unnatural optimism about the Lions, thus the term cornbread and Kool-Aid, you would agree that since it's 2 days after Thanksgiving, I don't think they've missed. If you want to call Brashard Perriman a miss, great. You could do that. If you want to call Jelani Tavai a miss, that's prior to that time. That's Quinn and Patricia. I have liked literally everything the Lions have done since 2 days after Thanksgiving. And I guess you can sprinkle some cornbread and Kool-Aid in that, but I would challenge you, tell me the miss. Tell me the horrible decision. Tell me the bad contract. Tell me the bad trade. I think Brockers is going to be a solid move. I am a fan of Jared Goff. No cornbread or Kool-Aid. We're going to talk more about him. I think people are being ridiculous as it relates to Jared Goff. I think he's going to be fine, something between good and very good. I think we have our quarterback. That's where I break away from the dumbass Dans and even a lot of the hosts of these shows. They have written it down in ink. The Lions need a quarterback. Okay. The Tigers have done a lot of really good things. It just takes longer, right? But when I look and I see the young arms that should be around for a decade, right? Mize, Scooble, Manning. I think you have to still like Spencer Turnbull. You still have to like Matthew Boyd, right? I just named 5 really good pitchers, right? How do you feel about Bo Burrows? I don't know. Where do you put some of these guys? Now, when you look down in Toledo and you see Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, you know there's even more talent coming. It's simple. They have no power. They have no power. They're not getting power from anywhere. You like signings like Scope and Haas, even Grossman. You like these signings. These are guys, glue guys that need to be a part of that puzzle. But they're trying to build with a small market model. They're hoping that all of this young talent comes up and becomes really, really good within a 3 or 4 year window. They'll try and hold on to some, others they'll let go. But right now they have no power. And so Christopher Ilitch makes a comment, I don't know, a month ago, and everybody jumps on it. They're going to spend money. I don't think they should spend money. Not this offseason. I don't think you're there yet. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. But right now, there's no power in the corner outfields. There's no, I mean, and let's be honest, Cabrera's number, I love Miggy, right? Cabrera's number is going to impact the budget. It just will. It is. And that's nobody's fault. I don't think there's a regret there. I think there's still some fun stuff to do with Miggy. But I think that they are about where they should be. At worst, I would say maybe they're a year off. And some of it might have been because of trades or whatever. But I think you can make some signings this year. There's talk of bring back Verlander. He's right and he's healthy. Love JV. He'll but you don't bring him back to mentor. You bring back JV because he can win baseball games. Because if you bring back JV and now you have to stifle the development of some young arm to satisfy, that's counterproductive. As much as I love JV, that's counterproductive, right? But the statement that AJ Hinch made to me is about the culture, and that has to happen too. All the talent stuff, that's Alavila, and there are people who think, oh, they made some organizational changes and let's fire somebody. Guy jumped on it. This is the end for Alavila. Okay, you can do that. I don't really do that. I think that process takes longer. I think they're doing a lot of things right. I think his statement was setting a culture, right? And make no mistake, they got lucky. A stupid scandal freed up one of the top 4 or 5 managers in baseball, and they got him. Kudos to them for getting him. AJ Hinch is a really, really good baseball manager, and he will be for a while. So developing young talent, he's done it. He's showing. You can talk about cheating. I'm not having that conversation because they cheated. I'm not debating that. I don't think because they cheated it means AJ Hinch is not a good manager, because he obviously is. So I think he's sending a message to free agents. And I'm not naive enough to believe that the number one motivation for professional baseball players is money. There'll be guys who talk about love of the game. Guys might go to their hometown. I'll buy that. But at the end of the day, they have agents, and their agents aren't going out looking for the best culture. Their agents are looking for dollars because that's their jobs. Nobody's upset about that. That's what they're supposed to do. Right? So the idea that I expect you to turn down money from one of the teams in New York or one of the teams in California or Chicago or Boston to come and play in Detroit, Michigan, myopic at best, nonsense at worst. But the hidden message trickles. Hidden message is to guys on that roster. Step up your game because the expectations are higher. The hidden message is to those kids at Triple and Double A. If you want to get here, get here. This is what you got to do. The hidden message is to Alavila and the organizational leadership, which is don't sign any bums, right? Sign guys that can help us. Sign guys that want to be here, not just look good. Right? He is raising the expectation for everybody in the organization, himself included. No, and everybody, to the media and to us fans. He is setting a set of expectations, which I think is a part of building a winning culture. It's not the only part, not even the most important part. It is a part. It is a part. So I like what he said. I didn't jump all over it like most people. I thought, that's cool. If he means it, that's cool. If everybody hears him, it's really cool, right? But I liked it. I like him anyway, but I like the statement and what it should mean, what it should represent to fans, to media, to players, to kids on the farm, young players in Double and Triple A, and even more so to Alavila and Christopher Illich, right? He's setting expectations for everybody, and that's what real leaders do. To me, it was a leadership statement. And oh, by the way, he put a target on his own back, because if they go out and they do what they're supposed to, and if Torkelson and Green show next spring that they're ready to play, and guys step up, then they got to win. And if they don't, buck stops with AJ. So it's a leadership statement. It's a leadership move, and I liked it. I mean, I loved it. So I think it bodes well for them as an organization. A lot of people still have a lot of work to do. They're minimum 2 years away. They're not going to next year. They'll be interesting. Are they going to compete for division? Chicago's good. Cleveland's still not bad. I don't know. My feeling is it's just a long process, slightly longer than we would like. And I think they're 2 years away. I don't think they need to go out and drop a whole bunch of money on shortstop seems to be the new hotness. They need a shortstop. They need power. If there's a corner outfielder that can hit for power, I talk to that guy, especially if he's affordable. But if not, you can wait. You can wait. You don't need to get a first baseman for power. That guy's name is Spencer Torkelson, and he's on his way. Don't worry about that. He'll get here. He'll get here when he's supposed to be here. When he gets here, if there's a third baseman that can hit for power and maybe a right fielder that can hit for power, now you're talking. Is that this offseason? Maybe, maybe not. If they sign somebody, we'll do a podcast and talk about it. So, yeah, so I do like, in general, where the Tigers are, which is probably not the popular opinion, and people disagree. I mean, that's cool. I just thought the statement was worthwhile, and people's reaction to it was kind of interesting. So yeah, let's see what that's all about. So now, I want to talk about the media, right? And so I'm going to get like right off the top, right? I'm not a broadcaster. I'm not a journalist. I don't do what they do. I'm not sure I could do what they. I know I don't want to do what they do. This is not that, right? Because I get what they do, particularly like sports talk radio. And like I said, on this podcast, I will throw shade, major shade in that area. It is 90% dumbass Dans, the guys that call. It is almost never the host. Occasionally, there's a couple of guys that I think are just bad at that job, and that's fine. There are people that I think they're horrible, right? But for the most part, the concept is great. The concept provides me with information, entertainment, a lot, inside look, and interviews that I wouldn't have any other way to get. It's a lot of information on the internet. I watch a lot of programs. I read a ton. There is something, because there's some smart guys on there with smart takes, but that's not their job. So when I throw shade, I need it baseline that I get what those guys' job is. Their job is to evoke emotion from Dumbass Dan. So Dumbass Dan will call their radio show. So Dumbass Dan will listen and they get ratings. Now, there's a percentage of their callers and listeners that are not Dumbass Dan. I don't want anybody saying on the Twitter feed at Cornbread Pod that I called all sports talk radio callers and listeners Dumbass Dan, because that would include me, because I listen very frequently and I call in sometimes. But people like me, 20% maybe, because I'm almost at the other end of the spectrum. So I'm not even giving a value judgment here. I am an innate optimist, right? I'm always looking for the positive. So I don't fit their model. That's not what they want, right? Their demo is the guy who's opposite me. When I call in, they don't really want to talk to me. They don't. They don't find me interesting. They make me sit on hold until I finally hang up. They want the dude who's going to call in and say, "I coach my son's Pop Warner team, and I know this guy's a bum." Right? It's like, so the baseline disclaimer: I get what they do. I get the objective at times is literally evoke emotion in fans. That's what drives their business. But I think they've become lazy. And that's the word I'm going to use. I might use weak, mostly lazy. I think they've become lazy in how they do their jobs. Nationally and locally, it's just lazy. And why is that irritating me? I don't know. Maybe they've gotten me. Maybe the lazy thing is an okie doke and I'm falling for it. I don't know. But like the Cam Newton thing is a great example, right? So there's the obvious lazy take. Belichick can't do anything wrong. So automatically Cam's a bum and Mac Jones is going to the Hall of Fame. Tell me you didn't hear that and see that nonsense, right? It's just lazy. It's weak, lazy nonsense. Cam was a great player. He still got some football in him. Sure, he's not MVP level football. No. You're telling me Cam Newton isn't one of the best 90 quarterbacks in the world? He can't be on somebody's roster? You're telling me Cam isn't a top 10 backup quarterback? There's no roster in this league. Now, maybe Cam prices himself out because he still thinks he's a starter. I don't know. You're not going to tell me Cameron Jarrell Newton is not one of the best 40 quarterbacks, right? There are teams where should consider whether or not Cam could be their starter, right? But at worst, unless he's just bad in the room or you're mad about the vaccination thing, strictly on talent, even the version of Cam Newton I'm talking about, telling me he can't play quarterback in the National Football League, that's ridiculous. But Belichick released him. And on the strength of Belichick, now you're a bum. That's the way it goes. Right? Patriots just decided to go with the rookie. And because Belichick drafted Mac Jones and Belichick has made Mac Jones the starter, Mac Jones is great. And yesterday, I actually heard, did the Lions make a mistake passing on Mac Jones? Totally on the strength of the Patriots named him the starter. Ipso facto, he's going to the Hall of Fame, and the Lions missed out. This is what I'm talking about. This is lazy. It's lazy. A bunch of teams passed on him, by the way. But it's lazy for a lot of reasons. It is clearly designed to manipulate some emotion. Anything where it's like, did the Lions make a mistake? Will the Lions rue the day? That sort of stuff, that is designed for dumbass Dan. Hey, dumbass Dan, get mad because we're going to literally make up something, pull it out of thin air and say the Lions messed up. Now, you can call in and say, tell the team, same old Lions. They eat it up. They love it, right? That's what they do. I personally am of the belief that the Lions are fine at quarterback. And it isn't fun or sexy to say it, right? But other than some very similar to Belichick, some fascination with Sean McVay, what's the actual evidence that we have? Where are the stats? Where are the documents that tell you that Jared Goff is not closer to being the quarterback that was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago than he is to being a guy who should be replaced by Mac Jones? The Mac Jones that these same people went bananas when they thought he was going third to San Francisco when that rumor got out. But now he goes 15, but Belichick took him, so he's got to be great. It's weak and it's lazy, right? I don't see the evidence because Jared Davis hadn't played yet. Oh, wait, you're the dude who thinks preseason football matters. Great. You are dumbass Dan. No wonder. Now I get it. If you think those 4 possessions he played in the preseason is enough data for you to tell me who Jared Davis is, and you're going to ignore the fact that he was in the Super Bowl, you're going to ignore the rest of his career and just say, Sean McVay said he was a bum. Sean McVay okey-doked all of us. He crafted this ridiculous narrative that something is wrong with Jared Goff. Jared Goff's not good. No, Sean McVay traded and got a better quarterback. And saying that Matthew Stafford is better than Jared Goff is not an indictment of Jared Goff. Especially coming from me, the most unapologetic Matthew Stafford fan in the history of the world. No. But I don't know what Anthony Lynn's offensive scheme is going to ask Jared Goff to do. I don't know that Jared Goff won't fit perfectly into it. In fact, that's Anthony Lynn's job. Craft a system, craft a scheme that takes advantage of Jared Goff's strengths, mitigates his weaknesses, helps him put the team in the best position to win. That's literally Anthony Lynn's job. And there's documented evidence that he can do that he's done that well, right? Brad Holmes knows who Jared Goff is. He scouted him, he helped draft him, and he worked with him for years. Where is the evidence that all of a sudden Jared Goff's a bum? I missed that memo. I wasn't in that meeting when it was just decided. Sean McVay said XYZ in a press conference or passive aggressively made some statement. And now Jared Goff can't play quarterback in the National Football League. So the Lions screwed up and didn't draft Mac Jones. The Lions need to go get a quarterback. I don't think that question is answered yet. I'm not here saying Goff is our quarterback for the next 6 years. Am I? Maybe. I'm not ruling that out, put it that way. I don't think the question's answered. I don't think we know if we need a quarterback. I don't think we know. And if you're the dude in a couple of preseason games who have enough information that you have figured that out, congratulations, you are special. You are something special. Much better than me, because we don't know. And that's all I'm saying. The laziness in it is the guy who's decided that he knows. That he knows because Sean McVay did and said this, or I saw him throw a duck in the preseason game. And that's just one example. Cam Newton that's the Belichick thing, right? I think that the Goff thing irritates me, mostly because I truly believe Anthony Lynn is good at his job. He will understand how to put the right scheme together that will help Jared Goff play to the highest level of his potential. And I think it's weak and lazy for these guys to give some stupid Mac Jones take. Mac Jones has done absolutely nothing in the National Football League except be named the starter by Bill Belichick. That's it. And, of course, Belichick has never gotten anything wrong, has never missed on a draft pick. So, that's a given. Mac Jones, give him a yellow jacket right now. Just mail him his yellow jacket because the weak, lazy, dumbass Dans of the world have already decided. So sometimes I get worked up. A couple more, because I don't like to just give two examples. So the Jeff Okudah one is really irritating me. Anybody who honestly thinks they know what Jeff Okudah is a liar. Yeah, it's a strong word. It's a strong word. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to back off. They have an agenda. They have an agenda. We don't know what Jeff Okudah is. What I know is he's super talented. And a lot of scouts last year had him graded as the best corner in the draft, one of the top 5 players in the draft. So if you're that dude who has the ability to say, I don't care that he didn't have a camp last year. I don't care that he hurt himself. He got hurt in fall camp. I don't care that he was playing in quite possibly the worst scheme ever. I don't care. I know Jeff Okudah's a bum. Jeff Okudah's a bust. Jeff Okudah's not going to be a good player. I got words I want to use to describe you, but I want to keep doing this podcast. I just don't think you're smart, right? Or you have an agenda, which you could be a smart person who's saying and doing that for a purpose. Doesn't make you a dumbass Dan, but you have an agenda. Man up and admit your agenda, right? Or, I mean, you can, I guess admitting your agenda, you can't keep manipulating dumbass Dan. So, but my feeling is if you can ignore those 3 facts, and they're facts, wait, if you don't agree with my facts, I get how you could be dumbass Dan. If you don't believe that not having OTAs and summer work doesn't matter, that he missed a lot of fall camp with a leg injury. I want to say groin, could have been his quad. I don't know. With a leg injury, that doesn't matter. If you want to say that wasn't one of the worst defensive schemes you've ever seen, no, that doesn't matter. And you're going to evaluate Jeff Okudah's rookie season and ignore those 3 facts, cool. I get exactly why you say the dumb stuff you say. Now it all makes sense. Same thing with Penei Sewell. There are people saying Penei Sewell is a bust. Penei Sewell has sucked. What? Okay. So everything I heard was Penei Sewell was a freak athlete, powerful, smart. And now people decide he will never learn how to play right tackle. There are people who are saying it doesn't matter. He sucks at right tackle. He's not good. Okay, we're going to ignore that he's switching positions. So you, whatever you do for a living, however long you've been doing it, if you've been doing it for, I don't know, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, go back to your first week on that job. Are you telling me you were every bit as good in your second week as you are now? Why do we not believe that Penei Sewell, all of a sudden Penei Sewell just became a bum? He went from mid-April, he was dream pick. There's no way he's going to fall to us week. Now it's the narrative of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes don't know their jobs because Penei Sewell isn't good enough to move to right tackle. And they just got it wrong. They just got it wrong. He can't move to right tackle. He was never going to be good at right tackle because in parts of 2 preseason games, he hasn't played well. Right? Because it should have been easy. He should have came in and been a Pro Bowler. He should have came in and been a Hall of Famer day 1, right? Because he was a 7th pick. That guy's supposed to hit the ground. You're just not a smart person. I'm sorry. And if you legitimately believe that Penei Sewell's not going to be a good player based on parts of 2 preseason games, reflect on that. How in the world can you evaluate that? You're not at practice. You should reports. Guys saying, sure. But if you truly believe, like Jeff Okudah can't be better in year 2 than year 1, and Penei Sewell can't move to right tackle, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? I saw an article, a Twitter post, trade Decker and move Sewell to left because Sewell's not going to be good at right tackle. And you can get something for Decker. I go back 2 years ago in this podcast, really hard on Taylor Decker. Last year, I thought Taylor Decker bounced back and had a really good season. I am team Taylor Decker now. And I have no doubt Penei Sewell is going to get comfortable at right tackle, and this is not an issue. This is lazy journalism. This is lazy media. And Okie doke fool was falling for it. I think Penei Sewell is going to be very good at right tackle. Right? The guys who do this for a living, scouts, guys who work for Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, who evaluate him every day. They saw all of his film. They knew he sat out a year. They evaluate him. They worked him out. They have dossiers. But you're going to believe dumbass Dan who posts something on Twitter. You're going to believe the guy with a journalism degree who talks about sports for a living. That Penei Sewell's bust. He's done. Can't do it. Jeff Okudah can't be a good corner in this league because, they got agendas, man. Jared Goff's a bum. You're going to believe that? Go ahead. That's fine. And it's nonsense. And if you fall for it, cool. I'm okay with that. Fine. But the people that do this for a living, they know what they're doing. Everybody else is speculating, including me. Including me. When I get on here and I say, with transparent honesty, I eat cornbread and drink Kool-Aid every day. That simply means I love this football team. Same thing can be said for basketball, baseball, and hockey. I am an optimist. I am not the dude who's going to call in and say, Lions will never win until the Fords sell the team. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. I did almost a whole podcast last year on the history of Lions GMs. When they get the GM right, they'll win. They've never gotten a GM. There is no same old Lions. All those GMs were bad for different reasons, failed for different reasons, failed in different ways. It's like the opposite of same old Lions. Everything from cheapskate Russ Thomas to fairly successful and underrated Chuck Schmidt, who did some really good things here, to Matt Millen, unmitigated disaster, to Martin Mayhew, flat out punted the 2012 draft and didn't take Aaron Donald. That's it, 2 points. To Bob Quinn, tied himself to a bad coach with a bad scheme. Every one of them was different. But dumbass Dan will tell you, it's just the Lions. They'll never get it right. And they will eat up the stuff that they're being sold. And they'll tell you that it is a black mark on Brad Holmes that they had to cut their top free agent signing. If you believe Brashard Perriman was their top free agent signing, great. I say you ignored Jamal Williams. I say you ignored Tyrell Williams. I think you ignored the acquisition of Michael Brockers. I think there were signings and transactions that all were kind of important in their own way. But it fits your narrative. It fits the narrative of the sports talk radio guy who wants to piss you off and have you call his show to say, well, fifth and sixth, the fifth and seventh round pick are very valuable. They had to give up to go get a guy they could have gotten. You don't know they could have gotten him. That's lazy, weak media, and I hate it. There were people who really thought, what, they weren't going to sign a kicker before the 12th? What the hell are you thinking? Of course they had a plan for you think they released both their kickers with no plan? That's dumb. Sorry. And some of it is just weak, lazy media. And some of it is dumbass Dan falling for the okie-doke, right? But this preseason in particular, it sucked. It sucked. And some of it is we don't know the schemes yet. So they can't write about as much about Anthony Lynn and AG. They can't because they don't know, right? There's so many new players. Maybe they were just reaching, right? And these guys never come back later and go, ooh, I got it wrong. When, and I don't say if, when Okudah and Sewell and Goff all outperform expectations, they're not going to come back and go, yeah, remember that show I did back in August when I said Penei Sewell was a bust and Jeff Okudah would never be anything and the Lions need to call, oh, I was so wrong. They're not going to do that. That's not fun. Why would they do that? Right. And I'm not juxtaposing me on this pot, but I'll go back and I mean, if it's necessary, I don't tend to make those predictions. I am saying flat out, I don't know. I don't think Jeff Okudah's done and a bust. I don't know. There's still work. Okudah has to do work. Aubrey Pleasant has to do work. I don't know what Jeff Okudah is. That's what I'm saying. I think Penei Sewell is really, really talented, and there's not nearly enough data points to tell me he wasn't a good pick. I don't know. That's the difference. But I think those guys, because they need you to get emotional, they have to say definitive stuff. They have to make these bold proclamations, and that's their job. That's why I said, in general, I don't have a problem with the guys who do it. Sometimes I think there's guys who do it poorly. But in general, I don't have a problem with the guys who do it. I don't know. That's not true. I think I do. I don't know who I have more of a problem with. Is it dumbass Dan for falling for it, or is it the guy for doing it? He knows dumbass Dan's going to fall for it. I don't know. It feels like it's gotten worse. It feels like it was really bad this offseason. A lot of this hot take theater crap, the Mac Jones thing, and the Lions should have drafted a quarterback, and they have a process. They've been pretty transparent about it. The Lemmings want to jump on the phone and call a radio station and say something bad because that's what they live for. And right now, all the teams are doing some good things or early. They don't got anybody to fire. They don't have anybody to fire right now. That's what those guys live for. Call in, tell the sports talk radio guy that he's great and you love him and he's always right and how he gets you through your day. And then you tell him, well, I know this guy sucks. He should be fired. That's part of what they do. But I'm sorry, you guys ran everybody out of town pretty quick. Right now, I think Alavila's the target. Maybe Harbaugh. For some, obviously, others never. But they don't have anybody. So now they're just making up stuff. They're just creating nonsense. Did the Lions miss out on Mac Jones? That one is just irritating. The Akuda, interesting. We just don't know. The Penei Sewell is just dumb. That's absurd. If you're walking around proclaiming Penei Sewell is a bust, you're just not a smart human being, and I don't really care what you think of me. The golf one, I guess that's interesting. He's a quarterback, but we don't know, right? But the coverage, the media coverage nationally and locally, I feel like has been weak and lazy. And I normally wouldn't dedicate so much time on the podcast to something like non-team related, but it's just been really irritating, right? To me, what the Lions are doing, and I will say right up front, this is all cornbread and Kool-Aid. This is all cornbread and Kool-Aid. I think they have a plan. I don't know that the plan is going to work. Nobody does. But I love that they have a plan and they have not deviated. It's about the process. They have a process that they're committed to, and they're not deviating. And moves like cutting Brashard Perriman, trading for Trinity Benson, keeping Tom Kennedy, that's consistent with the plan. That is consistent with the plan. Moving Penei Sewell to right, letting him learn it, that's consistent with the plan. They got 2 ones next year, 2 ones a year after that. This is not an overnight job. It's not. Quinn and Patricia left a hot mess. These guys are trying to build a sustainable, competitive team. They're trying to build a culture. And I have not said anything about Dan Campbell yet because Dan Campbell's evaluation comes on Sunday. As we get into it, I'll evaluate Dan Campbell. I'll talk about game day decisions, right? If some of these guys don't pan out, if Aleem McNeil or Levi Onwuzurike turn out not to be good player, I will criticize Brad Holmes. Can't do that yet. I'm not jumping on the let's bury Jeff Okudah bandwagon. I think it's ridiculous. Penei Sewell's not even worth talking about, right? And the same with Jared Goff. We don't know. I know he went to a Super Bowl. And you can give all that credit to Sean McVay. Somebody was out there executing those plays, throwing those balls. His name was Jared Goff. Why are we assuming he's not still that guy? Instead, we're assuming he's some version of the guy that Sean McVay scapegoated. And I'm not a Sean McVay guy right off the top. I think he did Jared Goff dirty on the way out the door. I hope he doesn't do something crappy like that to Matthew Stafford. That's just my opinion. Take it as you will. I believe Jared Goff's a really good quarterback. I think we're set at quarterback for the next 3 to 5 years. Contractually, 3 for sure. I don't think they need to draft a quarterback next year. Now, if somebody really good's there and he drops to you and the board says this is the best player, you take that guy and you develop that guy. It might be moot. By the end of this year, we might be going, wait, Jared Goff's 28 and we have him under contract for 2 more years? Yeah, we're not drafting a quarterback. We're not going to draft a quarterback. I would, if I had to wager any amount of money that meant something to me, I wager Jared Goff's our starting quarterback in 3 years versus some other guy. I wager Jared Goff will have a better next 5 years than Mac Jones. And you could be that guy, and it's okay. You don't even have to admit you're that guy, and that's okay. But I have no problem dedicating half my podcast to calling the reporting and the media coverage weak and lazy, because that's what I think it's been. I think it continues to deteriorate to that. And some of that lands at the 4-letter, right? Who stopped being a sports reporting organization years ago. That is an opinion shaping organization. They should take the word sports out of the name. Take the S out of there. They're an opinion shaping organization. They create shows and put people up there and tell you this person knows something because they work here. And those people just tell you their opinions. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them are good, some of them suck, right? But the okie doke, they do all the time. They literally created a poll amongst their own employees, their own anchors and reporters and whatnot about the best players in the league. And then created a story from their own poll, presented it as hot take theater. Tom Brady's not ranked one of the top 6 quarterbacks by our people with a poll we created. They literally generated their own story and then tried to make it controversial. But okie doke, dumbass Dan falls for it. Dumbass Dan posts about it, tweets about it. Lazy, weak and lazy. Those are the words I have for you today. I hope they do better. If you don't agree with me, cool. At Cornbread Pod, get at me. I'm fine with that. None of this scares me, right? Because I believe everything I'm saying. I think I've given examples. I've offered you evidence. And I believe in what I'm saying. And I'm also humble enough and honest enough to say my slant, as it relates to this football team, is not objective. It's not. I'm not as far to my side as dumb as Dan is to his side, but neither one of us are anywhere close to the middle, right? And all the stuff about the media was questions. Why? Why do we need to bury Jeff Okudah? Why do we think Penei Sewell isn't going to develop into a really good right tackle? Why do we think Jared Goff isn't the Super Bowl quarterback from 2.5 years ago, but some kind of bum? Why do we think we should have even considered Mac Jones? Why? Because I don't understand. And maybe it's simple. That's all hot take theater designed to generate calls and generate ratings and generate tweets and posts. And I just don't get it. Could be that. Could be me. All this could be me. But okay, that's enough. We're over an hour. Wasn't intending to do that. I got into it a little bit. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't agree with me, that's fine. Like I said, feel free. Twitter account's there. I love feedback. I'll read tweets. If you say something, clean and responsible, even if I don't agree with it, I'm open to talking about it. Mike and I have talked about let's talk about tweets on our Twitter account. People will say stuff about the podcast, about the Lions, about me. Doesn't matter. We're open to that. So hopefully you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoy doing it. It is very fun for me. I don't think we were crazy. Shout out to the super producer extraordinaire as always. Mike will be back with us on the 12th for the Lions in San Francisco. So we'll have Mike back then. I'm going to drop something next week. Talk about the schools. Both teams are in action this week. Michigan State Friday, Michigan Saturday. Talk a little bit about both of those teams and their games. Maybe touch base on some more Lion stuff. But we'll be dropping something early next week, and then we'll follow up Sunday with the game. Like I said, hope you enjoyed it. If you can, do me a favor, do me a solid. There's a way to rate and review and share it with your friends. The likes I appreciate. We got a bunch of them last week. So everybody have a good one. We're getting pretty close to football. So be safe and be responsible and take care. Thank you.